Welcome back, Pulp Nation, to another episode of RotoX Fantasy Preview. My name is Donnie, and this week, Fantasy Supercross invades Oakland, California. In this video, I have 5 rider stats that you need to know before locking in your picks Saturday night. As a reminder, if these videos help your picks every weekend, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps spread and grow the channel, and in addition to the comments you guys leave below, it lets me know what kind of content you want from me in the future. Today I ask, who is your all-time favorite rider? I grew up in the 90s, and for me, nobody was cooler than MC. The first race I ever watched on TV was San Jose 1993. I had a blank tape with 6 hours of Cycle World recorded on it, and I watched that over and over. Jeremy took the whole shot all the way to the checkered flag and rode with so much style. After that, there was nobody else for me. Let me know in the comments who your favorite riders were, and if you're in our RotoX Fantasy League on PulpMX, let me know what your username is and what you scored last week. All right, without further ado, let's get into what I know you're all here for. The first rider we're going to talk about is going to be your 250 All-Star, and that's Mr. Red Plate himself, Justin Cooper. With one more strong finish, Justin will have actually held the red plate for 5 of the 10 West rounds. After a rough go in Glendale where he just couldn't seem to stay off the ground, Justin has a very generous handicap of 3. In his 13 starts since the beginning of 2019, Justin has had 9 podium finishes, 2 gate drop wins, and an average finish better than 4th. I strongly consider Jacob Hayes in this spot because of how lofty his handicap is, even though he's been running around 5th every race. But it's really hard to bet against the points leader at a 3. Our first non-All-Star is returning from injury after missing the past 3 races. That's right, Little Mac is back. Cameron McAdoo has a 2 handicap, and normally I would be a little concerned about his injury, but since the beginning of 2019, the only time he's finished outside of the top 12 was the East-West Showdown in Atlanta last year, but in Vegas, the other East-West Showdown, he actually scored his first career podium, bringing home a 3rd, before posting a 6th place at A1 in his only race this year. Obviously, be wary of that injury and stay on top of social media, see if there are any updates on that or how he qualifies, but I couldn't pick Little Mac fast enough at a 2. And there are a ton of great 450 riders to target this week. I'm not sure if the guys are trying to lax back on handicap for a bit of higher scores because of the feedback or what, but it's actually so good I had a hard time picking only 2, so I actually picked 3. That's right, no 450 All-Star tips this week. Vince Freezy is my first rider to target. He has a 4 handicap, which means he just needs 14th place to score 26 points. And you have to go all the way back to Daytona 2018 for a round where Vince did not finish in the top 14. And he has 4 top 10s in his last 15 starts. Freezy could very easily end up with the highest score of the week. The second 450 rider I want to talk about is Tyler Bowers. The Bear has a 7 handicap, and the last time he finished outside the top 17 was all the way back at A1 in 2019. With Bloss, Bloss, and Bogle out, he should have an even easier time qualifying with a great gate pick and staying out of the LCQ. 3 top 10s in his last 10 races means Tyler also has a real chance to score 40-plus points in Oakland this weekend. The final rider I want to talk about is the Chiz. Kyle Chisholm at an 11 is ridiculous. I know he's hurt, I get it, but Chiz is gonna chiz, and that means finish in the top 17 or 18. Chiz has actually 7 top 15s since the beginning of 2019, and again, with the Killer Bees missing this week, he could have a real shot at scoring another top 15 this weekend, assuming his injury is healing up well. Stay glued to those qualifying times, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to get updates on Chiz, as well as every other rider this weekend. He did on his social media last week say he was returning at Oakland, but I have not seen a confirmation post as of Wednesday night, so just be sure to double check and make sure he is racing before the gate drops. Speaking of those Killer Bees, let's look at the ins and outs this week. Cameron McAdoo and Kyle Chisholm, as I had said, are returning from injury that has kept them out multiple races, and they are in. Jet Lawrence is still recovering from his collarbone injury. He will miss significant time, and he'll be joined on the sidelines by his Geico Honda teammate Christian Craig, who is expected to miss at least the next 2 rounds with a broken hand, and hopefully returning to Seattle in March. The first Triple Crown round hit the 450 class hard as Bloss Bogle will miss at least 1 round with concussion-like symptoms, but Chris Bloss is to miss significant time. He actually fractured 4 ribs, fractured his femur, dislocated his wrist, which is going to require surgery, and had a lacerated kidney. These three guys are going to be huge outs for fantasy as it opens up 3 main event slots for those double-digit handicap privateers. So those of you guys that have been looking for your long shots, now is your time to strike. Recording this video on Wednesday night before the fantasy podcast is even out, I'm looking at Justin Cooper and Eli Tomac for my All-Stars. I have Cameron McAdoo, Carson Brown, and the Aussie Aaron Tonti in the 250 class. No surprise, 2 of the 3 450 guys on my team are Kyle Chisolm and Tyler Bowers, and they will be joined by Zach Osborne at a 0. I have Faulkner for my FFL as there's no reason to bet against the guy. He has crossed the finish line first 4 times in 6 tries, but I am not even touching a 450 at this point. If you include the red flag restarts that have been redacted from Glendale, there have been 5 different riders take the FFL and 8 gate drops, and Wazako and Kenny, the only 2 that have even done it twice. If you had to pick somebody, I would probably go with Kenny and ride that hot hand, but for me, it's definitely a no. And that's actually going to do it for our video this week. Earlier reports in Oakland hinted at some rain and a wet race, but it's actually been reduced to only 20% chance, and it's going to happen very early on Saturday, so it should be a total non-factor. As always, be sure to check in with us on Twitter, Instagram, and even Facebook for up-to-the-minute news on the weather, any rider injuries and updates, various stats and info, and even some memes thrown in during the week for good measure. As always, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. May your chizzes always chiz and your jerrys not always jerry. Good luck this weekend, guys. Take care.